So, welcome to the official NCEG Future of the Music Industry podcast, episode 1. So, for today, we'll just be discussing, I guess, just like the origin of it. We're talking about the official launch of the NCEG program after 10 years of research and development. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Derek Jackson, aka Prez. I'm joined here by co-founder Javi and our Chief Academic Officer Atlas. So, fellas, how y'all doing?
I'm all right, man. Good to hear.
No complaint.
All right, so we're gonna keep this nice and simple. Who wants to go first?
Yeah, I'll go. Since this question has kind of been something that we've been talking about since we were still kind of testing out our litmus branch. And I am curious, since the two of you at least have actually run a chapter, so it is not really kind of staying in the realm of hypotheticals at this point. So it doesn't have to be in your experience, but I'm assuming that it will kind of help educate your answer. But with these chapters, there is always kind of a split between, do you emphasize the kind of enjoyment of the students and kind of building those bonds, kind of the good old fashioned spend time together, make jokes, have meals together kind of way? Or do you kind of center it around making sure that things get done and the gratification of kind of reaching goals and knocking out things and releasing projects and doing all of those kind of challenging things together? Do you think that one is more effective than the other?
Go for it. You can go first, Derek.
Okay. So, yeah, I think, over the years of us doing this, because of course originally we started kind of doing it together, and then it kind of morphed and changed. I do think that with the context of understanding that NCEG facilitates this structure for like teamwork with regards to like students operating on their own campuses and in their own schools, functioning as like labels and agencies, I think that culture question is really boils down to the nature of the team itself. I will say that for me personally, it really started as when you're really starting a team and you want to be competitive. I think that it makes sense to be cutthroat. I think that when it comes to building a team, given the fact that like we're really talking about these stats mattering and them comparing and being the thing that really lets you shine on a national platform, I do think it's important for you to make sure everybody understands that there is a level of seriousness that they need to take it. There are bonds that get forged when you're going through this process together and working with students. But at least from the coach's perspective, I think that it's better to almost be that person pushing them, being the bad guy in a sense, to challenge them to go above and beyond to do what it is that they need to do, because then it forces them to kind of congeal and come together. And then the other thing is you're always going to have students who are at different levels with it, right? You have some students who are really, really advanced in terms of their ability to produce and deliver. And you have some students that are brand new and like learning and coming in and need to be mentored by the other students. Taking it too lightly means that we found that you end up losing your more advanced students. You end up, offering them a disservice because they're not able to get out of the program what it is that they need to get out of it. So, I do think that culture-wise, it makes more sense to be, if you got to be a drill sergeant about it. Personally, I think that that's oftentimes the better way to go. Obviously, within reason, but it's no different than how a coach would be for a basketball team or a football team. Like, we're not going out there to hold hands and sing by eye. We're going out there to win. We're going out there to do our best. And every coach is gonna really let their style shine through. But I think it needs to be taken seriously.
Got you. Understood. Atlas, what do you think?
Part of that I do use myself. I did use myself, but I had a better response being more like, hey, you need to enjoy this, but not in the sense of not in the sense of, hey, I'm coming in and I'm the I am the hell in the high water, which is my normal personality. Anyone who knows me knows that. But when I was coaching, what I saw worked great was being able to create much more of an inspirational environment. Yeah, there was heavy critiques, but it was left within the context of I'm trying to make sure that you're better.
Right.
And it allowed me to actually get more out of the students that I had. It is not as quick as I would say Derek's approach, because Derek's approach is way more like faster turnaround. Admittedly, it's really good about getting good results very quickly because you're also like your turnover rate is higher, so you do have a lot more quality coming in and whatever, leaving and exiting.
Sure.
For me, it was much more of a how do we retain and get better quality out of what we have, which is just a different approach. And it worked well for the group that I was working with. And I was able to get way better quality performances out of them in an environment where that turnover rate was something I was trying to keep as low as possible.
Fair enough.
But, I do agree with the sentiment of let's try and forge the sharpest blade.
Okay.
I do agree with that particular sentiment. That's something that we want to make sure that we're not sending duds into the music industry. That's the whole goal, is making sure that we have absolute nail drivers going into the music industry. Not everybody's personality works well with certain tactics. So for me, I just try to make sure that I pay attention to that and do it works best for that person. It does require me to be a lot more hands-on, and it is more time consuming. But if you're okay with that, it'll work. If that's something that you're not really trying to do, you want to spend more time on the outcome, then I would tell anybody, don't go that route.
Agreed. And I think it's a kind of a good kind of rule of thumb to follow anyway, that you always want to keep in mind as you're a coach, especially if you're going to be kind of addressing different campuses year to year, and even just with dealing with new students as they come in, you're always going to have to kind of reassess as you figure out the kind of people that you're going to be working with, obviously, as you have to do in the industry, as I think we both know. My way, as I think both of you know, because you know this about me, if I were running my own chapter, it would be more about just kind of, if y'all can also agree with the sentiment, it'll be about just being able to turn that switch on and off, right? I believe in absolute militantism when it is useful, and then turning that off and being joking at other times, because there is certainly a time and a place for us to celebrate our victories together. Yes, but I think there really is something for, say, for example, if you just got out of class, whether it was boring or exciting, it's class, right? But when you're coming to spend time with your chapter, especially if there are things that have to get done, I think that is really something beneficial to kind of impart in our members' minds. In like, when you step through this door, there is respect to everybody in the building, whether you know them or you don't. And essentially you are kind of nose to the grindstone until whatever it is that has to get done that day gets done. And then, we go have pizza together. We go have a drink together, whatever else can be done to kind of maintain that camaraderie outside of that. But first and foremost, I think, no, when I'm with my people don't play, and that's why we'll win. But that is just me. Yeah.
I mean, personally, I do, just based off the history and the experience, when we're talking about how these other chapters may get built and these other coaches may work with their teams, no, I think I do think that that's probably going to be the best way for them to move forward. I think that's going to be probably the best way to really challenge their students to do better.
Right.
To tell them, yo, respect everybody's time. That's really what it's about. Respect everybody's time. Come in prepared to give your very best, and then just kind
Right.
of go from there. Come in under the full assumption that everybody here actually wants to be able to, do this professionally.
Yeah.
But
truly.
that's my 2 cents. We've done it both ways. And that's the way that I think, okay. But moving along, without beating a dead horse. So why, fellas, this is my question. Why do y'all think it was necessary for us to do this particular podcast? Why are we launching this now? What purpose is this really serving? I'm sure some people may be asking.
Go ahead, Atlas. I see it on your face.
Nah, I'm good.
Okay, yeah, I'll do it. Yeah, so I think as with any like major paradigm change, right? I think what kind of comes along, or what needs to come along with it, so that there will not be kind of a period of chaos as the change is kind of manifesting and unfolding. I think having kind of constant updates from the minds that are kind of leading this change is absolutely necessary and vital to kind of facilitating that change as it happens. What we're trying to do is essentially kind of bring to the forefront the fact that young talent rules this industry right now, and that the education of that young talent is kind of paramount when it comes to completing this change and taking it kind of away from the hands of the old money and kind of rooting it in younger money being able to manage itself properly. So I think it is just kind of an ingredient to the larger recipe of this change that you have to kind of keep what the leaders originally intended, at least, in mind and kind of in the forefront of that conversation as the changes continue to happen. So that for the people that are not in chapters and are just coming to the shows, so that people understand that what we're doing is not just putting on a bunch of shows, essentially. It is good for people to kind of be able to see the skeleton of what's actually driving this change, because in that way, I think the general public will be able to more heavily invest and more genuinely invest in the parts of it that they can see in the shows and in the artists that are kind of coming out of the program.
I can agree with that. I agree with that. I don't know, there's such a huge disconnect out there right now when it comes to misinformation and disinformation, because it's so abundant. We talk about this all the time amongst ourselves, but I guess just to say it out loud, we have an emerging generation that's going into the music industry that we've never experienced before, where we have a generation of people who have always been connected. That's never happened in human history. Where you got a generation of people that from a touch of a button, from the moment they were born, at the touch of a button, they can be connected to millions. That is new. I don't know about y'all. I grew up, there was a rotary phone in my grandma's house, and we used it all the time. Like, I played outside, we thought the Netflix internet discs were Frisbees. Like, we didn't know. Like,
yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like, there's an entire generation of people that have always been connected in such a way, and the way they share and the way they share and communicate information is fundamentally different. They are dependent, in a sense, on information being made available to them.
Sure.
And there is so much information out there that there's a trust aspect to that too. It's like, who do I trust to be able to articulate? Who do I trust to learn from? This podcast is coming from a group of people who spend a lot of their time working with young folks, working with students that are either in the industry or going in or wanting to go into the industry. And we actually can back up what we're talking about through practical application. They know people that work with us. They know people who are part of the organization. They've seen the work of people who are in our organization on billboards, on and the Oscars and the Grammy. Like, they've seen it all. And now we can articulate, say, hey, we know what we're talking about. And we've been able to produce people through this program that have that skill set, because we understand the information to you is incredibly important. and it needs to be shared a particular way for it to reach you. And that's
Sure.
at this point, I think that's the most of this is about timing and what's appropriate for this new generation of creators.
Yeah, as y'all know, I'm not the most um enthusiastic about getting out in front of the camera myself, but I do think that the time that we're in right now does warrant us really documenting and telling the story about what it is that we're doing in real time. I'm happy to be able to be working with you all. I'm looking forward to being able to bring other guests onto this platform to also talk about the things that we're talking about here.
Sure.
To in real time, like have conversations with the students and the executives who are seeing those students grow through this. And yeah, like ultimately I think this needs to be a platform for educators, educators who work hands-on with, with young people who are doing their very best to try to make a name for themselves in this. And yeah, as much as I love being in the shadows, I am willing to make the commitment to doing this in order to be able to, to see their stories told, the educator stories and the student stories. So that's what it's all about, I guess.
Agreed. Yeah.
I guess if this is going to be something that we should talk about, is just what do you need, like what skills or what experience do you think these students need to come into to be a part of a chapter? That's the number one question I get asked for people who are interested in NCEG. The number one question is, what do I need to know getting into it?
Yeah, I'll go. I think just judging from the kind of most prevalent problem that we've had to face, right, in the years that we've been kind of testing the program, the real thing that you need is initiative. You need initiative and you need a will to learn. There is no skill that we cannot teach you in the industry particularly, but a trait that we cannot really instill in people that will guarantee either the success or the failure of the chapter is a lack of initiative or the presence of it. If you do not want to take the effort to come to your rehearsals and to come to your meetings and to make sure that your leadership is together and that things for your shows are together, and that does take a considerable amount of effort, much more so, I think, than any one particular skill, then you will fail if you can't find that in you to just show up, right? Which, as I'm sure we've all here learned, is the majority of the industry. Just show up to the parts that suck, to the parts that are non-glamorous. If you can kind of keep it in your heart that you will show up for everything that is asked of you, you will find some large degree of success, I think.
Yeah, I would second that. I think also, like, when we're talking about like what is it that you need to know when coming in, for the chapter, or what coming into this program in general. I think that, yeah, to a large degree, everyone who comes into this needs to understand that this program is more than just about trying to make you like famous or make you a star. As a matter of fact, I would say that that's not really what this is about at all. So if you're coming in here for that reason, because so many people are just trying to figure out a new way to get there, I think that that's the wrong way to look at it. This program is about teaching you skills that are not only going to be relevant to you being effective in the industry, but is also going to be relevant to you knowing what it's like to just be a person, having to balance all of the demands mentally and physically that come with it. We're not in the business of trying to create celebrities and superstars. We're in the business of trying to right the wrong of purposefully misled youth. We're in the business of trying to create a realistic expectation with regards to what it really takes to do this.
Sure.
And I think that if people just simply understand that they're coming in here to learn first and foremost,
Mm-hmm.
they're coming here to learn first and foremost, like whether that's being in the spotlight or being behind the scenes, you're coming in this to learn, and you're coming in this to build your own name and your own reputation in a way that's public enough
Right.
for it to make a difference in your career, like in a meaningful way, and for it to not necessarily matter what city you are currently in,
Right.
what school you currently go to, regardless of race, economic status, or geographic location. But as long as they're coming in to learn, then I think that they'll do well, and every other reason will leave you exposed and ultimately disappointed.
Fair enough.
Yeah, I agree with that too. That's something that I tell anybody that is trying to get into NCEG, like, come with an open, what do they always say? Come with an open mind and open heart.
Yeah.
Because you never know what you're going to find when you get there. Not to mention the fact, how many times have we seen somebody come in and say, oh, I want to be a CE, and then they leave an artist manager or
That's true. Yeah.
Or they leave altogether because they don't make it as a CE. Not everybody's going to make it.
Yeah. It's a lot of opportunity. I used to, and I still do. I remember that. I remember it was a panel that we were doing. I want to say either it was at the library that was on Georgia State's campus, or the event center that's on Georgia State's campus, or in the CMI. But I remember you actually said out loud, I want people to hurry up and quit.
Yeah.
I remember that you said it in front of a room.
That man gonna quote me. Gonna quote me like that.
You said that in front of a room full of industry executives and students when asked that question. And everyone kind of looked at you and was like, I can't lie.
I mean,
it's true. It's like, if this isn't for you, I want you to find out that this is not for you, because it's not for everybody. A lot of people want to be in the entertainment industry, and they're here for the wrong reasons. And they create more problems, not just for themselves and the people around them, than they do help ever. And it's important that we come willing to work, come willing to learn, come ready to improve yourself above all else. Because being, if this isn't about developing yourself as a better person in whatever you're doing, then you're going to fail regardless. Come with those thought processes. Like, come with that as a part of why you're here. Don't come trying to take up space and do the most, because that's not working right now, especially in a music industry that now, because it is the digital age, no one cares what your IG, if your IG is popping. They know whether you're real or not. I've heard so many people say that. Like, so many young people be like, oh, they got X amount of followers, but they probably mostly fake. That person ain't real. They're not they're not actual. Like, no, they see through it.
Yeah.
And so authenticity is the need for authenticity is at an all-time high. And NCEG will root you out of there if you're not authentic.
True. And I think it's worth mentioning also, and I'll keep this quick. Like the kind of overcrowdedness that we feel, I think, in the music industry, and that has obviously existed and has been exacerbated since the invention of like the home studio and things like that, and people being able to essentially get all the way through the chain of production at home. Oversaturation is really just an oversaturation of mediocrity, right? There is no such thing as oversaturation, I don't think, in any industry of competent, skilled labor. It is always that you have your competent, skilled people doing something cool or something that pays well, and it attracts this tsunami of mediocrity, right? I think what we're doing is also substantial because it fixes that. We are not just taking a ton of college students and dumping them into the industry. I think we are taking a bunch of disorganized children that otherwise would jump into the industry anyway and contribute to that oversaturation and training them instead so that with the kind of cultural oxygen that we have, we can better make use of the space, essentially. So I think ultimately what we're going to find as kind of your base labor point kind of raises in skill, that we will also be in time addressing oversaturation.
Yeah, and I'll add one more thing to that, and I think that the value of us also doing this publicly, even if we are attempting, addressing mediocrity, because like we all hear the stats about all of the music that gets dumped onto Spotify and never gets streamed even once. I think that it also does go a long way for us to have the conversation publicly about development in a way that can maybe influence others who maybe aren't even in our program, right? To be able to essentially do these public case studies on a localized level that does just kind of raise the bar even for these independents who are, not a part of any major system or anything like that. So I do think, I think that that's an important thing for us to be doing. And I'm happy to be doing it with you all.
Agreed.
I'm happy to do it with you too, Derek.
Yeah. Well, that's our time. Like I said, I appreciate y'all. That concludes episode 1. And yeah, like we'll be back here every week, just kind of rehashing these things. Like I said, bringing on other guests. I appreciate everybody out there who may be listening to this, and welcome to the launch.
Chapter.
Yeah, join the chapter. Welcome to the launch. It's gonna be a good year.